Good morning and welcome into the Clubhouse Turn. This is going to be a podcast all about horse racing, in particular brought to you by Crownsway Racing. My name is Vito Abenanti. As you can see on the screen, I am with the president of Crownsway Racing, Tony Rallo. Good morning, Tony. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to be here. Let's get this thing going.
Perfect. Well, this is the first ever show, the Clubhouse Turn. You can join the conversation if you're just joining the show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And you can follow us on Twitter at Tony Crownsway, at Crownsway Racing, and at VJA Sports Media. This show is going to be a Kentucky Derby primer. We're also going to get to some Crownsway information a little bit later in the show, but the most of this show is going to be about the Kentucky Derby. It is a full 20 horse field. The post positions have been drawn. I'm going to put that up on the screen right here, and you'll be able to see. So Tony, we kind of went over this. We looked at it. It seems like there's a large gap between the top of the field and the rest of the field, as you have, three horses that are below 10-1, and everyone else is 10-1 or higher. First and foremost, let's go over which horses were hurt or helped by the draw. As you can see the draw here on your screen.
Well, I think obviously the first one everyone's going to talk about is Mo Donegal. In previous years, the rail had been almost an automatic toss if you drew down there. It killed looking at Lucky's shot. But last year they put in a new starting gate, 20 stalls across. So it was the first year doing that. Known agenda so far was the guinea pig. He ran ninth in last year's Derby. But the problem with drawing the rail is everyone's looking to come over and save ground. So a horse like Mo Donegal, might not affect as much because he's a closer, so he's gonna be dropping towards the back anyways. But it's still not ideal to be down there. Another one I didn't love the draw was Epicenter. He's got early speed, but he's got Summers tomorrow just outside of him, who's got sprinter speed and made the front in two sprint races over in Dubai. So he'll definitely be breaking quick. And just the outside of them in the sixth hole is Messier, who I think is on a complete send mission as well. So Epicenter, he needs to show a little bit of more rateability like he did in Louisiana Derby. Definitely don't think he's going to make the front from there, and unless they send him on an absolute send mission, and I don't think that's the best way for a horse to win this race. Alternatively, I think Zandon drew really well. Zandon, he drew in the 10 spot, and in a dual load, the 1 and 11 will be entered first, and it goes down the line. So to enter 20 horses takes a little bit of time. So Zandon will be one of the last ones in the gate. He won't have to wait as long as the others. And I think Messier drew pretty well. I think for this horse to win, he's going to have to go wire to wire a lot like Medina Spirit did last year. And drawn inside there, he should, as long as he breaks good, he should be able to get good position heading into the first turn.
Yeah, and you mentioned a couple of the top horses there. We'll get to our picks a little bit later. Mo Donegal, as you mentioned, being on the post, or being in the one spot, not the greatest position, but he might be the horse that might be able to push through that and actually do something with it. Tony, let's take a look at the full field. If you were going 1 through 20 here, and just give us some info on each of these horses. I know you kind of already went over a few of them, but we've got, I mean, in a 20 horse field, it's not necessarily, just these top three horses that are going to be, well, it's a foregone conclusion. These are the three that are going to board, and let's just, everyone else is an also ran. So let's take a look at the full field, and you can just kind of go through each one of these horses here. Just tell us what you think about not only their post position, but, their odds for this particular race.
Okay. Yeah, I do think it's a wide open Derby this year. I mean, just due to the post positions coming in, I thought Epicenter was the man, but with this post position, it started, I think, to open up the fields for everyone. So starting again with Mo Donegal, he is the Wood Memorial winner. He came up the rail in that race, so maybe the rail won't hurt him as much. The horse knows how to be down inside. He's actually drawn the rail now in 4 of his 6 lifetime starts. He's a lot like the other horses Donegal Racing has brought in. They haven't got over the hump yet, but they've brought Keen Ice, Patio Prado, Dullahan, all closers, all coming late, and all those horses went on to have really nice careers. Now, I'm not super high on Mo Donegal's chances to win this Derby, but he should be running late and have a good shot to hit the board. Then we got the 2 Happy Jack for Doug O'Neill. This horse has just kind of been behind in California. He's run against Messier twice. He's run against Taiba. And he's been beat 10 plus lengths in his last 3 starts. I don't think there's much of a chance for Happy Jack. Epicenter, as I said, I think he was a little hurt by the post draw, but he did sit off the pace in the Louisiana Derby. He's got coming in off 2 wins. I think up until this week, he was everyone's pick to be at least the morning line favorite. There's very little wrong you can say about that Epicenter's done, and he looks like a player to win this race as long as he can get out a good trip. And Joel Rosario is one of the best in the game, so I don't think the post position is going to hurt as much as long as Joel can find a good trip. Summers tomorrow is the 4. He's one of the UAE shippers. Every one of his starts has been in Dubai. In Dubai, he's kind of been more of a sprinter. I think he's a good bet to be one of the ones on the early lead, but I don't think he'll be around when the real running is done. The 5-horse Smile Happy, he's a very interesting horse. He's probably the early Kentucky Derby favorite after winning a big Kentucky Jockey Club as a 2-year-old. In that race, he beat Classic Causeway. He beat White Abario. He came back to run second in the Remsen behind Epicenter, beating Zandon in that race. And then his last race, I think, was better than it looked. He went off the favorite. He did get beat by Zandon, but Zandon saved a lot of ground inside, and Smile Happy had to be wide in both turns. Messier for Tim Yakteen was second in the Santa Anita Derby. He's one of the ones that was transferred out of the Bob Baffert barn to run in here. He's got early speed. He's 8-1 on the morning line, and I don't like that price at all on him. I think his only way to win is to go to the front. And a lot of people are comparing him to Medina Spirit of last year. I don't see the hype in this horse, and I think he's definitely one to fade. One of the sleepers in this race would be the 7, Crown Pride. Crown Pride won the UAE Derby in his last start. He's been the talk of the clockers all week. He's probably done more training than anybody else. This week they've been blowing him out almost every other day. And you got to respect what Japan's done recently. They won 2 races on Breeders' Cup Day. They had a huge Saudi Cup night and then an even bigger Dubai World Cup night. So is this the year for Japan to win the Kentucky Derby? I think probably not yet, but I think Crown Pride will have a good showing and continue Japan's positive on the world stage. The number 8, Charge It for Todd Pletcher. This is a lightly raced colt. He was second in the Florida Derby behind White Abario. He was very green in that race. Tappets sometimes are. They take a little bit of time to mature. But this is probably the biggest pedigree in this race. He's a horse bred to go this long. And if he can get over the inexperience he showed in the Florida Derby, I think this horse can take a massive step forward. And at the 20-1 morning line, he should be every bit that price. The number 9, Tis the Bomb. He's kind of one that's getting a little hype during this week. He is coming off 2 wins at Turfway Park, but that's a synthetic surface, much similar to what we had at Arlington the last couple of years. He's run fast in those races, but the real question is, how is he going to show up on dirt? He ran a tough race in the Holy Bull, was beaten 20 lengths, but he did break his maiden over the dirt surface at Ellis Park, so maybe he can show up a little bit on the dirt. The morning line favorite, Zandon, for the Chad Brown barn. He is taking all the love from the clockers this week at Churchill. They loved his recent work. He picked through the field in the bluegrass. Now I don't think he never got stopped in that race. He did bull his way out at about the 3/16 pole and kind of pushed his way through. Big horse. I think he's got a big chance. The only thing I don't love is since the point system has come into effect, you've had to show early speed to win the Derby, and he should be coming from a little bit out of it.
Let me ask you a quick question, Tony. You know,
Sure.
you've gone through the top 10 or the first 10 post positions here.
Hmm.
Before we get to the back 10, because when I look at the lines here, you're looking at all of the favorites and then some seem to be in the first 10 positions. Now, I'm when we get to the second 10 here, when you get to 11 through 20, you're looking at least, 10 to 1. Most of them are 20, 30 to 1, something along those lines. But if you had to go through the first 10 post positions here and you
Hmm.
had to say, all right, I'm not going to look at Zandon. He's the favorite right now. I'm not going to look at Epicenter. I'm not going to look at Messier. If you had to pick someone from these first 10 post positions that might be an important horse for this race, doesn't necessarily have to mean they're going to win, but maybe they are a pace setter that allows someone else to come up there and grab a win, or maybe they're a late closer that pushes another horse. If you had to look at the first 10 post positions here and pick a horse out of them, which is the horse that you might go with as a not necessarily a sleeper, but an important horse for the
Kind
for
of an
this
X
race?
factor.
Yeah,
I think Summer is tomorrow. Definitely, I don't think will make an impact late in this race, but what he does early will be very important in this race. He needs to break well. Traditionally, horses that come over from Europe and Dubai, they don't have the bell in the starting gate, so that spooks them. And American dirt horses are just speed is the name of the game, so they traditionally break a little bit slower. Now, this horse is a sprinter. He's got sprinter speed. He's probably the most sprinter type horse to get in since the point system. And if he breaks well, he should be right there on the early pace. And I think if you're in like the Messier camp, I think you would like to see a horse like that break a step slow so Messier can inherit an early lead. But if if Summer of Tomorrow breaks well, Messier is going to have to do a lot of running if he wants a clear early lead.
sounds good. I didn't want to break up your list here. I just wanted to see, with a field this large, with a 20 horse field, um, coming from those first 10 post positions, especially in the middle there, you're likely to have a little bit of an advantage, particularly if you're a front runner, if you're going to get out in front of this field. But I just wanted to see before you got to the back 10 here, what you thought about, maybe some odd horses off the front. But I apologize. Head into number 11, Pioneer of Medina, for us.
So Pioneer Medina, also from the Pletcher barn, he got in later on because he was, I think, sitting 21st on the points list. Um, this horse hasn't done a whole lot wrong. He's just seemed to have been a step below Epicenter. He's been running behind him the better part of the spring. I think he definitely could show up a little bit, but I think him winning would be a bit of a long shot. But he's definitely one to use behind in your trifectas. Now, getting to the number 12, Taiba. Taiba is, I think, the X factor of the whole race. He debuted on March 5th in a 6 furlong sprint race. He won very impressively. That was in the Bob Baffert barn. He is now switched over to Tim Yak Team barn and went from a 3/4 maiden race to the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby. It's just not something you see happen very often. And he showed up huge in that race and blew by Messier down the lane. He's the fastest horse in this race. There's no doubt about it, no matter which forms you look at. Taiba is the fastest horse in the race. But is the inexperience going to get him? He's even less experienced than Justify was when Justify won the Triple Crown. But he's definitely a horse that's got some special ability. And if the moment is not too big for him and he gets a good trip, he's, I think, the horse to beat. The number 13 is Simplification. He's a Florida horse. He's the winner of the Fountain of Youth Stakes. He came back to run I think, a sneaky good third in the Florida Derby behind White Abarrio and Charge It. And I think you can see this horse run a good race. Now, I don't know if he's a win contender, but I also think he's one you can use to spice up your tries at a big price. The number 14, Barber Road. He's been running in Arkansas all winter, and I think the consensus has been that the Arkansas preps have been the weakest of the Derby preps. Was second in the Arkansas Derby and third in the Rebel. He's going to make a big closing kick, but I think this is just too much of a step up for him. Now you get down to the 15, White Abarrio from the Safi Joseph barn. He's a very interesting horse at 10-1 on the morning line. He's done nothing wrong all winter. He won the Holy Bull. Then he came back to win the Florida Derby. He's coming into this race training well, and I think he's a big contender to win the 148th Kentucky Derby. Cyberknife from the Brad Cox barn, and now you'll see where the Brad Cox, they all drew outside for this race. He's the Arkansas Derby winner. Once again, I do think he's coming out of the weakest group of preps, but he's always been a little bit green, and if he's getting his act together, I think he's a play to hit the board, even if you don't think he can win the race. The 17, Classic Causeway. He took the Tampa Bay route to get here, winning the Sam F. Davis and the Tampa Bay Derby. He took a step up in the Florida Derby and stopped poorly. They even said that they weren't considering the Kentucky Derby anymore. I think last minute Derby fever got him and they decided to enter. I think the biggest impact on this race for Classic Causeway is he's probably the quickest from breaking from the gate, and he'll definitely be trying to get over and save ground in the first turn, maybe even on the front. So we'll see what happens with Classic Causeway, but I don't think he'll be around towards the end. The 18, Tawny Port from the Brad Cox barn. He won the Lexington at Keeneland 2 weeks ago. Before that, he was tried Tis the Bomb and at Turfway, and he's tried against Epicenter. Hasn't been good enough against those and would need a major step up. The 19, Zozos, also from the Brad Cox barn, he's another inexperienced horse. He was behind Epicenter in the Louisiana Derby after setting the pace. He'll be trying to cross over and show some speed to save ground into the first turn. But I do think this is a big ask for a horse that I don't think has the pedigree to get the 1.25 miles. And finally, rounding out the field is Ethereal Road from the D. Wayne Lucas barn. He got in earlier this week when Unoho dropped out. He's a big closer, but he's kind of disappointed since his second in the Rebel. He probably should have won there, even with the rough trip. I liked him in the Bluegrass and just didn't show up against Zandon and Smile Happy. And then ran in the Lexington 2 weeks ago and was no match for Tawny Port. So he's up against it, but maybe a horse to look for later on in the season, similar to a Will Take Charge for D. Wayne Lucas a couple years ago.
Well, there you have it. There's all 20 horses in the field. If you want to do something, let's do something a little similar to what we did for the first 10. If you had to pick one horse that might be an important X Factor horse for this race, maybe not win it, but can be important to the rest of the field from this 11 through 20 group, who would that horse be?
I think the horse you definitely got to watch from the second half of this group would be Taiba. Taiba is the X Factor, I think, of the whole race. He's talent-wise, it's undeniable. He's faster than anybody in here, but the inexperience might get him. It'd be interesting to see the kind of trip Mike Smith gets on him. I think look to get him in the clear and outside. He's never taken dirt in the face, and you never know what's going to happen. It'd be hard to school a horse like this at the Kentucky Derby with 150,000 people screaming.
Yeah, and not the best situation for getting a horse to learn something is at the Derby, but um, you know I think you've mentioned a couple of these horses in here. Obviously, you've gone through the whole field, so you've mentioned them all. But you've mentioned the good and the bad, the ups and the downs of some of these horses. We know who the top three horses are as far as the favorites right now: Zandon, Epicenter, Messier, 3-1, 7-2, 8-1. They're the only three horses that are below double digit odds right now. Everyone else, so another 17 horses in this field, all at 10-1 or higher. If you had to pick, I'm going to put the screen up here just for a second, but if you were looking at sleepers for this particular race coming from wherever, from the middle, from the outside, that really could, we've mentioned X factors that might have an impact on the race but not win it. If you had to pick some outside horses that might actually be able to win it, who are your choices?
I think Crown Pride, the Japanese, what they've done over the last 7, 8 months needs to be respected. I don't know if he's good enough to win in here, but I expect this horse to have a big showing on Derby Day. And then my top pick actually in the whole race is Charge It. I think the pedigree, the being in the Todd Pletcher barn, this horse was very green on Florida Derby Day, and it probably cost him the win over White Abarrio. There's no barn I'd rather be in for a guy to get this horse going the right way. And now, what I mean when I say he was green, he was ducking in when Saez would hit him with the stick during the Florida Derby, and he also was running in spots. And I think you could see this horse improve 5 or 6 lengths, and if if he does do that, I think that puts him past a horse like White Abarrio, and I think it puts him right up there with Taiba, Epicenter, and Zandon, and he'll probably be 3 times the price of any one of those horses.
All right, so Crown Pride and Charge It are Tony's picks as sleepers. We'll get to my picks after we actually take your picks for the Derby. I'll just go through the
Mhm.
picks that I have. I don't really have any specific bets. Basically, I would give you 3 or 4 horses, tell you to box them, and go from there. But Tony, you're the expert, so I'm gonna take your word over mine. Before we get to your picks for the Derby specifically, there are obviously some other big name races that happen on Derby weekend, whether they are at Churchill or otherwise. You've picked a couple that you want to highlight here, some Derby weekend races to watch that are not specifically the Derby. If you want to jump into those.
Yeah, so the first one I think obviously is the Kentucky Oaks. It's the girls' version of the Derby. I think this year's Kentucky Oaks field it's got to be one of the deepest fields in probably the last 15, 20 years with 4 really nice horses in there. My top pick in there is going to be Kathleen O from the Shug McGahee barn. That filly showed first time going 2 turns at Gulfstream in her last race. Javier Castellano just rode her like he was on the best horse in the race. He kept her out wide in the clear, made sure she was going to have no traffic trouble, and she just mowed by Goddess of Fire down the lane. She gives some serious Orb vibes, or was a Kentucky Derby winner out of the Shug McGahee barn a few years ago. And I think this is a special filly, and I'll definitely look to play her in the Oaks Derby double, which is you got to have the winner in the Oaks and the Derby, and I'll look to single her and use her with 4 or 5 horses in the Kentucky Derby and try to hit a big payout. The other race I'm very interested in is the Derby City Distaff. It'll go as race number 8
I think
on
it's
the
8 on
yep
Saturday.
on the Kentucky Derby card. It's a 6 furlong or a 7 furlong sprint. It's a grade 1 for older fillies and mares. And the reason I like this one is besides the title of president of Crownsway Racing, I've also had the self-appointed title of the president of the Bell's the One fan club. Um, she's just a
you
very fun mare. It's fun when you see some of the smaller trainers get a horse like Belle. She's a filly that loves to win. She has won 4 of her 8 starts at Churchill with 3 seconds, and she loves the distance 7/8. She's hit the board in 8 of her 10 starts, and at 5-1 on the morning line, I think being out of the Neil Pessin barn, I think you'll get every bit of the 5-1 price. And I think there's enough speed in here to set up for her big late kick. So Bell's the one is one to look at in the Derby City Distaff.
You know, you can't give yourself a nickname, right? That's not how it works. You can't give yourself titles and nicknames. I don't know what you think you're doing over there, but this is not allowed.
I'm. You can say what you want. I will put it on the business card along with President of Crownsway Racing, the president of the Bell's the One fan club. And it's nice
In smaller print, I
in
hope,
smaller print,
underneath it.
but it's
Um,
nice when you got these horses to still be fans of horses that you don't have any involvement in.
Definitely. I mean, obviously we are both involved with Crownsway. You slightly more than I am, but we're both involved with Crownsway, so we're always going to be fans of the horses that you're running from your stable. But it's nice to. I liken it to fantasy football in a way where it's nice to maybe have guys on your team that you don't have a stake in, where you can just watch the game that they're playing and
Mhm.
enjoy it without going, I need them to do this for us, not necessarily for something, auxiliary. So it's great to just enjoy watching something and not have to, have to have an expectation of something there.
Oh, don't worry, I have a
Let's
big bet on her. So
let's
there'll
yeah,
be an
but
investment on Bell's the One come Saturday.
at least it's more slightly more entertaining watching a horse
Yeah,
you don't have a specific stake in.
yeah.
Let's jump right in. Let's get to your picks for the Derby first and foremost, and then if you have any exotics that you specific exotics that you want to go to, not just for the Derby but between races.
Okay, so just as a winner, I think Charge It offers the best value, the biggest upside. I kind of buried the lead there earlier, saying that he was my top pick. But I've been once I've seen the post position 8. I like his spot. I think Luis Saez is the best jockey out there, and there's a lot of reasons for me to like a horse like this. So that's who I'm gonna be playing. I'm not looking to hit a 3 to 4 to 1 shot in the Derby. I'm looking to make a big score, and Charge It's a horse you can do that with. Now in the trifecta, I would use Charge It, obviously in the tries, but I would also use a couple others. I think Epicenter has shown up, and I think he's a very obvious contender. Along with him, I would look to use horses like Smile Happy, Zandon, Taiba, and White Abario. I think that's the cream of the crop in here. They're the horses I think have the best shot to run in the top 3. And I think you can, if you put all those horses together, I think obviously you can't box all those, but maybe a bet where you put Charge It and Epicenter on top and you kind of fill in with those horses behind, I think is a big, has a big shot to be a big score. And the Oaks Derby double is the bet I'm probably most excited about. I've Kathleen O, I've been on her all spring. I'll be playing her in $20 doubles, whatever amount you're comfortable with Charge It, Epicenter, Taiba, Zandon, and White Abario. So on that $100 investment, I look to hopefully make a big score, especially if you can hit a White Abario or a Charge It, who might be bigger prices rather than Epicenter or Zandon, but those will still be good scores too.
So for the Derby itself, Charge It on top. If you're just picking one horse, it's Charge It. Best bang for your buck. If you are boxing Charge It with someone else, any combination of Epicenter, Smile Happy, Zandon, Taiba, or White Abario. Um, are you the type to just do a straight box, or are you going to do something where you're keying a horse, like are you going to key Charge It and then just randomize your rest, or
I'll probably have some sort of bet where I need either Epicenter or Charge It to win. And then after that, if I can hit any one of those in second and third, so it's kind of, you kind of layer the bet. So you'll
Mhm.
have Charge It, Epicenter in the number 1 position, and then any of those two plus the 4 other horses I mentioned in second or third.
All right, sounds great. I'm going to jump into my picks really quickly before we move on to Crownsway Racing recap. We'll just close out the Derby picks here. So I have, you have a list of horses as well. I basically put 4 horses together that I would likely box into a trifecta.
Mhm.
So I have Epicenter. Mo Donegal, Messier, and I did put Zandon in there. Now, looking at those horses, that is not a huge payout. That's more looking at, do I think this will actually win? Can I actually pull this off with simply 4 horses and boxing them that way? I will say this: I would bet as a single horse. I would bet Mo Donegal. You did mention some of the things early on about the issues coming from the rail in the Derby, and basically, it's you look at that horse and you're like, don't even bother. Um, Donegal did win the Wood Memorial, and I just looking at, I've seen him run one race, but I will say this, just based on stats and how he's run other races, I think that's a horse that may be able to win from the rail, as long as, there's always a caveat here, as long as he's able to get out somewhere near the front. If
And
he
the
ends up 7 horses back, it's going to be an issue coming from there. 7, 8, 9 horses back, it's going to be a problem. I do like, I also mentioned Messier. I think that 6 spot is a fantastic spot to make it out to the front, and at least be far enough away from too much of the back of the field action. I do have some sleepers in here, 2 of which you are very high on. One is White Abarrio, the other is Taiba. One that you have not mentioned, but he did win the Arkansas Derby, is the 16-horse Cyberknife. I'm not a huge fan of the position he's coming out of, because that's a lot of ground to gain from the 16 spot just to get anywhere near the front. But winning the Arkansas Derby is nothing to sneeze at. So I did put him in as one of my sleepers. If I were gonna make that bet, I would likely key. I would likely put the 1 horse Mo Donegal up at the top, and then put Epicenter, Messier, and Zandon in as a box, a trifecta box. So with those other horses, White Abarrio, Cyberknife, Taiba, the way that you mentioned, kind of picking and choosing, making a couple different bets maybe, where you're not necessarily married to trying to put 7 horses into a trifecta bet,
yeah,
where it's going to cost you, hundreds of dollars. So those are my picks. Again, don't take that to the bank. They'll wonder, A, why are you taking Derby picks to the bank? And B, why are you taking picks from a guy sitting here in a Crownsway hat that doesn't really own any horses? So,
hey, you got
uh,
a piece of them, and you know what? Mo Donegal drawing the rail isn't going to hurt the price any. I think a lot of people will cross him off just based off drawing the rail, and it should help your price. So I'm not going to talk you off any 10-to-1 plus horses. So good luck with
y-
him.
yeah, especially in this race, But your pick, the one I really liked, and I actually came around to the more you talked about. He was already on my list, but Taiba at 12-1 in the 12 spot. That's a horse that could could make a lot of waves in this race, as you mentioned. I even put, I had some information as to, why I like Taiba, and you mentioned it all. And when I put my notes down, I basically just put, for all the reasons Tony mentioned. That was
Yeah,
that was the best I could come up with, because it's an interesting horse. It's an interesting spot to come from,
and
and
it's an
at 12 to
interesting
1, it's a
story
good payout.
coming out of the Baffert barn. Same owner as Medina Spirit last year. Um, Now, for people that don't know, I had Mandaloon in last year's Derby, and I might have a little bit of an axe to grind with that ownership, but you can't deny they're coming out with good horses, and they're spending money at the sales, and they're buying right, and they're coming up with a lot of really talented horses over the last couple of years. So as much as I pick him, I probably don't want to see him win, but you can't deny the talent that horse has.
Yeah, I would you call the Mandaloon pick unlucky at this point, or would you call it you got robbed?
Uh well, I picked last year's Derby winner. I think I could at least say that. Now I didn't get the life changing score that I might feel I was entitled to, but
Yeah,
I
well,
at
I
least
not
have the bragging rights to say I picked the 20 to
you
1
picked them.
spot.
That's right. You picked them,
And I was on him in December. I had future bets on him, and definitely would have been the biggest score of my life. And of course, that white haired son of a
Yeah,
you
he's
know
he's
what.
uh he's making a lot of friends in the horse racing industry after
Yeah,
decades.
he's kind of wearing out his welcome a little bit, but
Yeah, a little bit. As if he didn't years ago. It's definitely come to a full head over the past year or so.
mhm.
Um So let's jump in. Let's move on from the Derby and let's do some more local. And I say local, but the horses are kind of all over the country right now. But let's do something a little more local. The show here is brought to you by Crownsway Racing. So let's talk Crownsway Racing. By the way, this is the Clubhouse Turn, the first ever Clubhouse Turn. You can join the conversation on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and you can follow us on Twitter at Tony Crownsway, at Crownsway Racing, and at VJA Sports Media. So if we go through a Crownsway weekly recap, you didn't have anyone running early this week. It was mostly last week that you had some horses running. Bubba Dreams got his second win of the season or of the year of 2022. But we'll get to Bubba in just a second. Judy's Way, Tell Me on a Sunday, all ran. Um, let's do a quick recap on what happened with Judy's Way and Tell Me on a Sunday, who actually ran in the same race together.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing. We've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. First time we've run two against each other. I think that's just something that happens with growing now that we got 12 horses. Sunday made the front in that race, set a moderate early pace, and Judy sat off on the inside. And as the day went on, it came to be that probably the inside wasn't where you wanted to be on that particular day. I think it was just you saw a lot of winners come flying from the outside. Probably it was a little bit softer down on the rail. Judy definitely tried to make a run. I don't think you can be very disappointed in her race. She just kind of got a little tired while closing up the rail. I think on a better track or a more fairer track, she probably to hit the board. So she's probably doing. I think we're a little bit happy with that race. And Sunday, she had a win her second in her first two starts, so I think we can give her a little bit of a mulligan on this one. Um, the day after, we did run Trafalgar Shore, our Indiana bred filly. She also came running up the rail, although I don't think the rail was as bad on Wednesday as it was last Tuesday. And she showed at least a little bit of promise and was third against Indiana breds. And I think that's a race that we'll look to win at some point this summer that for a nice purse against those Indiana breds. If you want to talk Bubba was in. Bubba just kind of has been Bubba. He, I don't know if he's the best horse in the barn, but he shows up every time. He gives us what he's got, and he's got 2 wins now. He's an honest horse, and we'll look to have more success with him over the summer at Gulfstream Park. I think now that Tampa's ending, he'll go back over to Gulfstream. I think we'd like to see him on the poly track again over at Gulfstream, and we'll look to go somewhere on the poly next time out.
Sorry, I had a little microphone issue there. I was going to lead you into the Bubba news, but yeah, I mean, obviously, Bubba Dream's running well down in Tampa. It was mentioned in the information that gets sent out to everyone with Crownsway. It, might not be as lucrative down in Tampa, but if you're going to win races, win races. So it's one of those situations. You got to win the races that you're entered in, and Bubba seems to be doing that with regularity here in 2022.
Yeah, and Tampa, while the purses, they always say that they might be paying you in weather down there
Right.
at Tampa Bay Downs, but I think the horses love it there. They thrive over that surface, and it's not a bad place to go for the winter time. And you'll look to run in some bigger purse races in the summer. And now he'll be transferring over to Gulfstream Park. He'll still be training up in Ocala, but he'll be running primarily at Gulfstream. And I think, we'll be able to run for some bigger purses coming up.
All right, let's look ahead. You don't have anything scheduled right this second for the coming week, it appears. But let's before we get to the rest of the stable, I say
Mm-hmm.
Medway Queen, another one for Judy's Way, and so on. Talking tipsy. You have some ideas, I think, as to where you want those horses. But the big name horse in the stable is Smokin' Jay. Smokin' Jay's been on a bit of a break. Looks like he's getting a little bit closer to making his first start of 2022. So, what kind of update do you have from Smokin' Jay?
Yeah, he came back a little bit slow. He enjoyed his winter break. He might have got a little bit chunky on us, but he
Got a little
has.
hefty.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really blame him. I think a couple guys in this room might have that problem too. But
Yeah, you're no complaints over here. No judging over here.
but the works have gotten more serious the last couple weeks, and I think you will see him hopefully make his debut sometime this month. I know we've we've targeted a couple different spots, and we should have more information on the next show of where we've decided to zero in on a race for him. But definitely excited to get the big guy back. He's the showstopper in this group, and he's the one that people kind of know us for. And we're looking forward to a 4-year-old campaign. A little bit of a step forward, I think, puts us right in there with the best turf sprinters in the country, and we'll see a little bit of that on dirt or on Oaks Day. The race before the Kentucky Oaks is Jay's division. You'll see a horse like Chasing Artie, who Jay ran against a little bit last year in there, and we'll see kind of hopefully Chasing Artie will stack up against a group like that, and it'll be a good sign for Jay.
That sounds great. I'm excited to see Smoking Jay again. He had a great year last year, a great 2021. Actually running up the ranks as far as types of races he was running and types of races he was winning. So
Yep.
excited to see how Jay comes out of his break over the next month or so. Just give us a quick update on some of the other horses in the stable, whether or not you have some ideas for races for them coming up, or breaks. What's going on with the rest of the stable?
I think a horse we're really excited to get back into the races again in May would be Talking Tipsy. I get nothing but good reports from Jimmy Gulick down in Florida, and she'll be moving over from Tampa, where she made her first start, to Gulfstream. But there's a couple races sometime next week, so I think we're excited to get her back out there again. Obviously, Richie is kind of dulled out his last two starts, but has shown a lot of potential, and he'll be looking to run pretty soon as well. So those would be the two I'm probably zeroing in on. And our an update for our 2-year olds. We have the Dapper Rapper has been kind of the name we've been calling him. He doesn't have an official name yet. R.I.P. Cheddar Bob, as we tried to use that, but it didn't go very
Didn't
well with
go
the
over very
other
well.
owners. So, but I've got good reports on him. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll see a debut from him and our expensive new one out of Spitestown. He also he got a little break after the sales, but he'll be entering training soon as well.
Fantastic. Great update. Thank you very much, Tony. For those of you looking for information on Crownsway Racing, joining Crownsway Racing, and so on, you can contact Tony. Right now, probably the easiest way, you can get him on Twitter or you can email him. But there's obviously more great things to come from Crownsway. You said you're up to 12 horses right now?
Yeah, well, 12. I mean, it's crazy to get up to this number. I mean, started with Pat Shoes in
With Pat's
2018,
shoes. Yep.
and it's grown by leaps and bounds. And it's a new thing for us without Arlington Park this year. Um, but you'll see Crownsway. We're gonna expand and look to make our mark on a wider on a broader sense rather than just here in Chicago. So we're going to be running in Indiana, we're going to be running in Kentucky, we'll be running in Florida, Delaware, hopefully New York. So looking to expand the brand and continue growing this thing we've been doing about for 5 years. So
Again, if you're watching, you can follow on Twitter at Tony Crownsway, at Crownsway Racing, at VJA Sports Media, and you can join the conversation on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Currently, this is being run on the Weekend Wake Up page on Facebook as well as YouTube and Twitch. But the name of this particular podcast is The Clubhouse Turn, brought to you by Crownsway Racing. Tony, anything in closing for our first show?
no, I mean, let's just make some money this week with the Kentucky Derby. It's the most exciting 2 minutes in sports, and let's see a good race and hopefully cash some tickets.
Hey, quick question. Are you going to be posting your picks on Twitter or anything like that? Do
I'll,
you do
I'll make
anything
a
like that?
couple. I'll make a couple tweets of kind of different picks I like. I'm actually going this year. I'll be leaving
Very
today to
nice.
head down to Louisville. I've never been to a derby. Always said I'm not going until I get one in it. But I think the opportunity presented itself this year, and it was too hard to pass up. So I'll be in attendance for my first Derby this year.
You better have a fantastic hat and send us all pictures of it.
All right, follow on social media. You'll see him.
Will do. Thank you to everyone who watched, anybody who interacted as well. Join the show. We're looking weekly as of right now, likely on Tuesday or Wednesday, more than likely at night. This one just happened to be in the afternoon as you were, you were on your way to Kentucky. So thanks everyone for joining the show. Tony, thank you very much for all your insight, and we will see you on the next one.
All right, thanks.